Commander Thex, 9 of the Galactic Council Defense Fleet, stared at the holographic display with growing dread. Another red vanish from the star map. The Kepler 442 system, home to 12 billion souls, now nothing more than empty space and asteroid debris. The Zephyrian Empire had struck again. "How many does that make?" asked Admiral Crinvel, her crystalline exoskeleton clicking nervously as she approached the command center. 47 systems in 6 months, Thex, 9 replied, his tentacles coiling with stress. They're not just conquering anymore. They're harvesting entire worlds, stripping them of resources and population before moving on. The bridge of the Council flagship Harmony buzzed with quiet desperation. Representatives from dozens of species worked frantically at their stations, but their efforts felt futile against the Zephyrian war machine. For 300 years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace through diplomacy and mutual cooperation. Their ships were exploration vessels, their weapons designed for defense. They had never faced an enemy like this. "Sir," Lieutenant Vex Prime called from the communications array. "We're receiving distress signals from the Altair system. The Zephyrians have begun their assault." Thex, 9, closed his eyes. The Altairians were peaceful traders, their cities floating on crystalline seas beneath twin suns. In 48 hours, they would be gone. "Admiral, we need to face reality," he said. "Our defensive capabilities are insufficient. We need allies with actual military experience." Admiral Crinvel's compound eyes reflected the star map's glow. "The hegemony of Arcturus has already declined our request. The Crystalline Collective considers the conflict beneath their notice." "Who else is there?" "There is one option," came a voice from the shadows. Counselor Zanri stepped forward, her ancient form wrapped in ceremonial robes. As the eldest member of the council, she had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy, a species we've largely ignored. "Which species?" Thex, 9 asked. "The humans of Earth." The bridge fell silent. Several officers exchanged glances that ranged from confusion to outright amusement. "The primitives?" Admiral Crinvel clicked her mandibles in what passed for laughter among her kind. "They haven't even achieved faster-than-light travel. They're still fighting among themselves with chemical explosives and projectile weapons." "Precisely," Zanri said. "When was the last time any of our species engaged in warfare, Admiral? True warfare, not the theoretical conflicts we simulate in our academies. The hegemony wars ended 4 centuries ago." Thex, 9 admitted reluctantly. "The humans have never stopped fighting," Zanri continued. "While we achieve peace and prosperity, they remain locked in constant conflict. They refine warfare into an art form. They understand violence in ways we've forgotten. But they're so primitive," Lieutenant Vex Prime interjected. "Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. What could they possibly offer?" Zanri activated a holographic display, showing Earth's surface. The planet rotated slowly, revealing continents scarred by cities and industry. They call their world Earth, but perhaps a better translation would be battlefield. "Observe." The display zoomed in on various regions. Desert wastelands where armored vehicles moved in formation. Dense jungles where figures in camouflage moved like ghosts. Urban centers where soldiers rappelled from aircraft. Mountain ranges where snipers lay motionless for days. "They've been preparing for war their entire evolutionary history," Zanri explained. "While we develop philosophy and art, they develop tactics and strategy. While we learn to communicate, they learn to kill." "Even if that's true," Admiral Crinvel protested, "they lack the technology to stand against the Zephyrians. Our enemies possess energy weapons, shield generators, and ships that can crack planets." "Technology can be shared," Zanri replied. "Knowledge cannot. The Zephyrians have superior equipment, but they've grown complacent. They expect their enemies to fight like civilized beings, with honor, with predictable tactics, with restraint." She gestured to the display, now showing grainy footage of human soldiers in urban combat. They moved with lethal precision, using improvised weapons and unconventional tactics. One group had rigged an entire building to collapse on their enemies. Another had used civilians as camouflage to approach an enemy position. "Humans fight to win," Zanri continued. They understand that in true warfare, honor is a luxury and mercy is a weakness. They've spent millennia perfecting the art of making their enemies afraid. Commander Thex, 9 studied the images. The humans looked fragile compared to most galactic species. No natural armor, no enhanced strength, no specialized sensory organs. But there was something in their eyes, something that made him uncomfortable. A cold calculation that spoke of minds shaped by endless conflict. The Council would never approve contact with a pre-FTL species, he said finally. It violates the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive was written for peaceful times, Zanri replied. These are not peaceful times. Another 47 systems will die while we debate protocol. The bridge screens flickered as another transmission arrived. This time, it was from the Altair system, a final message from the dying world. The transmission showed Zephyrian soldiers herding civilians into transport ships, their energy weapons cutting down anyone who resisted. They're not just killing, Admiral Crinbell whispered. They're harvesting, using the population as slave labor in their war machine. The humans have a saying, Zanri said quietly, fight fire with fire. Perhaps it's time we learn what that truly means. Commander Thex, 9 looked at the star map one final time. The red dots marking lost systems seemed to pulse like wounds in space. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were dying while the Council debated ethics and protocol. Prepare a covert reconnaissance mission, he ordered. Small ship, minimal crew. We need to evaluate Earth's military capabilities firsthand. Sir, Lieutenant Vex Prime said hesitantly. What if the humans refuse to help? What if they don't understand the stakes? Zanri's ancient eyes glowed with grim certainty. Oh, they'll understand. Humans have been preparing for this war their entire existence. They just don't know it yet. The reconnaissance ship Whisper descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its cloaking field bending light around its hull. Captain Yelkara gripped her control station as the vessel shuddered against the planet's turbulent weather systems. She had explored dozens of worlds, but none had felt as hostile as this one. Atmospheric composition is barely breathable, reported her science officer, Dex Moore. High levels of industrial pollutants, particulate matter from constant combustion. This world is slowly poisoning itself. And yet they thrive, Yelkara observed, watching the surface through the ship's sensors. The night side of the planet blazed with artificial light, revealing vast cities that sprawled across continents. Population over 7 billion and growing. They've turned environmental destruction into a survival strategy. The Whisper settled into a hidden position above a region of humans called Afghanistan. Below, Yelkara could see the heat signatures of 2 armies facing each other across a valley. The humans have been fighting in the same area for decades, perhaps centuries. Beginning surveillance protocol, Dexmore announced. Deploying micro-drones for close observation. The drones descended silently, their cameras capturing scenes that would have been impossible to imagine in the peaceful sectors of the galaxy. Human soldiers moved through the landscape like predators, their faces painted with mud and ash. They carried weapons that seemed primitive, chemical-propelled projectiles, but used them with deadly precision. Focus on that group, Yelkara ordered, pointing to a squad of 12 soldiers approaching an enemy position. I want to understand their tactics. The humans moved like water, flowing around obstacles and covering each other's movements. When they encountered resistance, they didn't retreat or call for reinforcements. Instead, they adapted. One soldier used a reflective surface to spot enemy positions. Another crawled through a minefield, marking safe paths for his companions. A third scaled a cliff face in complete darkness, using only his hands and feet. They're improvising, Dexmore said with amazement. No communication with command, no predetermined strategy. They're creating solutions in real time. Watch their eyes, Yelkara whispered. Even through the drone's cameras, she could see something that chilled her, a complete absence of fear. These humans move through deadly situations with casual confidence, as if violence were their natural environment. The squad reached their target, a fortified position overlooking the valley. Inside, enemy soldiers waited with similar weapons and determination. What followed was not a battle, in any civilized sense. It was slaughter raised to an art form. The humans attacked from 6 different angles simultaneously. They used sound to confuse their enemies, light to blind them, and misdirection to turn their own weapons against them. Within minutes, the position was secured without losing a single soldier. Fascinating. Dexmore breathed. They didn't just defeat their enemies. They outthought them. Every move was calculated to create maximum psychological impact. Shift surveillance to the urban zone. Yelkara ordered. I want to see how they fight in populated areas. The drones relocated to a city where another conflict was raging. Here, the humans faced a different challenge, distinguishing between enemy combatants and civilians. Yelkara expected to see the primitive brutality she had witnessed in the desert, but instead found something far more sophisticated. Human soldiers moved through the streets like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. They used the city itself as a weapon, collapsing buildings to block enemy advances, flooding tunnels to force enemies into kill zones, even turning off power grids to create tactical advantages. They're using the civilian population as intelligence assets, Dexmore observed. The non-combatants are providing information about enemy movements. It's a form of warfare integration I've never seen. And notice how they minimize civilian casualties, Yelkara added. They could simply destroy the entire area, but they're choosing precision over efficiency. They understand that winning means more than just defeating the enemy. One scene captured her attention completely. A human soldier had been wounded and trapped in a building surrounded by enemies. Rather than abandon him, his unit spent 3 hours planning a rescue operation. They used every resource available, aircraft, ground vehicles, even civilian contractors, to extract one person. Why? Dexmore asked. From a tactical standpoint, that soldier was expendable. The resources used to save him could have been deployed elsewhere. Because he wasn't expendable to them, Yelkara realized they're not just fighting for victory. They're fighting for each other. It's creating a loyalty structure that transcends rational calculation. The observation continued for hours. The humans demonstrated weapons technology that was crude by galactic standards, but used with terrifying effectiveness. They showed tactical thinking that adapted to any situation. Most importantly, they displayed a psychological resilience that seemed almost supernatural. Captain, Dexmore said suddenly, I'm detecting an anomaly. One of the human soldiers is looking directly at our drone. On the screen, a human female in combat gear stared straight into the camera. Her eyes were cold, calculating and completely aware that she was being watched. Without breaking eye contact, she raised her weapon, a simple projectile rifle, and fired. The drone's feed went dark. Impossible, Dexmore stammered. Our cloaking technology should make detection impossible. How did she? Because she's a hunter, Yelkara interrupted. And hunters always know when they're being hunted. More feeds began going dark as other soldiers detected and eliminated the surveillance drones. Within minutes, the humans had neutralized an entire reconnaissance network using nothing more than primitive weapons and enhanced awareness. They're not just warriors, Yelkara said slowly. They're something else entirely. Something we've never encountered. What do you mean? Every species in the galaxy develops civilization by learning to cooperate, to suppress their violent instincts. But these humans, they develop civilization while remaining predators. They've created a society built on control violence. The last drone transmitted a final image before being destroyed. It showed the human soldier who had first detected their presence. She was speaking into a communication device, her expression serious and focused. She was reporting the surveillance to her superiors. We need to leave, Yelkara said urgently. They know we're here. But how is that possible? We're in orbit, completely cloaked. The ship's proximity alarms began screaming. On the sensor display, dozens of projectiles were rising from the planet's surface. The humans had somehow tracked their position and were firing missiles at a target they couldn't see. Evasive maneuvers. Yelkara shouted as the whisper lurched away from the incoming barrage. How did they find us? I don't know, Dexmore replied, his voice tight with panic. But they're not just firing blindly. They're predicting our movement patterns. It's like they understand our technology better than we do. The ship escaped Earth's atmosphere with hull damage and a shaken crew. As they set course for the rendezvous point, Yel Kara stared at the blue-green planet, receding in the distance. What do we report to the Council? Dexmore asked. That we found our allies, Yel Kara replied, and that the Zephyrians have no idea what they're about to face. General Sarah Martinez stood in the Pentagon Situation Room, staring at the impossible. The holographic display showed a three-dimensional star map with red zones marking hostile territories. Beside her, representatives from alien civilizations explained the threat facing the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire has consumed 47 star systems. Commander Thex, 9 explained through his translation device. Billions of lives lost. Their technology is centuries ahead of anything your species has encountered. And you want us to help you fight them, Martinez said flatly. A species that can destroy planets wants help from humans who still use gunpowder. Yes, replied Counselor Henri, because you understand warfare in ways we've forgotten. Martinez looked around the room at the Joint Chiefs, CIA directors, and Special Forces commanders who had been hastily assembled for this unprecedented briefing. 24 hours ago, they had been planning operations against terrestrial threats. Now, they were discussing interstellar warfare. Show me their combat capabilities, she ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing Zephyrian battle footage. Their soldiers moved in perfect formation, using energy weapons that could cut through armor like tissue paper. Their ships fired beams that could boil oceans. Their tactics were flawless, efficient, and completely predictable. They're fighting like a parade. Observe Colonel James Knox, a veteran of 3 tours in Afghanistan. Perfect lines, coordinated movements, no adaptation. Their technology compensates for tactical inflexibility, Thex 9 explained. They overwhelm resistance through superior firepower. What about their psychology? Asked Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Pentagon's chief military psychologist. How do they handle casualties? Unexpected setbacks. They don't experience many setbacks, Admiral Crinbell admitted. Most civilizations surrender after seeing their capabilities. Most civilizations, Martinez repeated, but not all. The few species that have resisted were exterminated quickly, Henri said quietly. The Zephyrians don't take prisoners. They view resistance as a form of mental illness. Martinez exchanged glances with her staff. She recognized the pattern, an enemy that had grown complacent through easy victories. They had superior technology, but had never faced an opponent that refused to play by their rules. What can you offer us? She asked. Technology? Training? Resources? Everything, Thex 9 replied. Advanced weapons, faster than light travel, energy shields. We can upgrade your entire military infrastructure. In exchange for what? Your soldiers, your tactics, your understanding of warfare. The room fell silent. Martinez understood the implications. They were being asked to take humanity's most dangerous skill, the ability to kill efficiently, and unleash it on a galactic scale. We'll need to see the battlefield firsthand, she said finally, and we'll need guarantees. What kind of guarantees? That when this war is over, Earth remains independent, that humanity gets a permanent seat on your Galactic Council, and that you never, ever point these weapons at our world. Agreed, Henri said without hesitation. When can your forces be ready? Martinez looked at Colonel Knox, who was already accessing a secure communications device. How long to mobilize the 75th Ranger Regiment? 6 hours for the 1st Battalion. Knox replied. 12 hours for the full regiment. What about Marine Force Recon? Already on standby. They can deploy in 2 hours. Martinez turned back to the alien representatives. We'll start with a small force. 200 of our best soldiers. If they can prove effective against your enemies, we'll escalate. 200. Thex 9 seemed confused. The Zephyrians deploy armies of millions. Quality over quantity, Martinez replied. You'll understand when you see them work. 3 days later, the first human soldiers stepped aboard the Council ship Harmony. They moved through the alien corridors with the casual confidence of predators in their natural habitat. Their equipment looked primitive compared to the advanced technology surrounding them, but their eyes held something that made even the ship's veterans uncomfortable. Staff Sergeant Michael Chin examined the energy weapons provided by the Council. "How do they work?" he asked the armorer. "You simply point and activate," the alien replied. "The targeting system automatically compensates for distance and environmental factors. What if the targeting system fails?" "It doesn't fail. The technology is completely reliable." Chin handed the weapon back. "I'll stick with my rifle. When something's trying to kill you, you don't want to depend on technology you don't understand." Similar scenes played out throughout the ship. Human soldiers were offered advanced armor that could stop energy weapons, but they preferred their own gear. They were shown communication devices that could coordinate across light years, but they trusted their own field radios. "They're refusing our equipment," Admiral Crinville reported to the command staff. "They insist on using their primitive weapons." "Let them," Martinez replied. "Our soldiers fight best with familiar tools." The ship's first test came when they encountered a Zephyrian patrol in the Outer Rim. 3 enemy vessels, each twice the size of the Harmony, moved to intercept them. The Zephyrians' energy weapons began charging, preparing to disable the Council ship. "Evasive maneuvers. Order Commander Thex 9. Prepare to surrender." "Belay that order," Martinez said calmly. "Sergeant Chun, you're up." Chun was in the ship's shuttle bay, preparing what looked like a simple maintenance craft. But hidden inside were 50 human soldiers and enough explosives to crack a moon. "Remember," Chin spoke into his comm unit, "these aren't soldiers. They're bullies. And bullies fold when you hit them where they don't expect it." The shuttle launched, broadcasting a surrender signal. The Zephyrians, confident in their superiority, allowed it to approach. They expected to take prisoners, to add another easy victory to their record. Instead, the shuttle's hull exploded outward, revealing human soldiers in vacuum suits. They used magnetic grapples to board the Zephyrian ships, cutting through hulls with plasma torches. Within minutes, they had seized control of all 3 vessels. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Crinville. "They boarded enemy ships in the middle of combat. They used the enemy's assumptions against them," Martinez explained. "The Zephyrians expected surrender, so we gave them surrender. Then we killed them." The captured Zephyrian soldiers were brought aboard the Harmony for interrogation. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such unpredictable tactics. Their perfect formations had been useless against opponents who attacked from unexpected angles. "How many humans are there?" one of the prisoners asked through a translator. 7 billion, Martinez replied. The prisoner's expression shifted from defiance to terror. 7 billion soldiers? "No," Martinez said with a cold smile. 7 billion potential soldiers. The 200 you just met? There are peaceful ones. Word of the engagement spread quickly through both Council and Zephyrian communication networks. The galaxy's most feared military force had been defeated by a species that hadn't even achieved faster-than-light travel. "This changes everything," Zanri said as she watched the captured Zephyrian ships being integrated into the Council fleet. "The humans didn't just win a battle. They created doubt." "Doubt?" Thex 9 asked. For the first time in their expansion, the Zephyrians have encountered an enemy they don't understand. They've learned that superior technology doesn't guarantee victory. That's the beginning of fear. Martinez studied the star map, marking potential targets and strategic positions. This is just the beginning. We've shown them that humans can fight. Now we need to show them that humans can win. What's the next step? "We take the war to them," Martinez replied. "And we teach the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth." The Zephyrian fortress world of Kethvar had never been attacked. For 3 centuries, it had served as the Empire's primary staging ground, a massive military installation carved into a planet's crust. Orbital defense platforms surrounded it like a crown of thorns, each one capable of destroying a fleet. Emperor Zethkal stood in the command center, his crystalline armor reflecting the light of 1,000 tactical displays. Reports flooded in from across the Empire. Supply lines disrupted, patrol fleets ambushed, forward bases mysteriously destroyed. The humans have been fighting for only 2 months, but their impact was devastating. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. 47 in the last week, reported his aide, General Morthek. But the losses aren't following any pattern. The humans strike without warning, hit targets that should be impossible to reach, then vanish. "They're primitives," Zethkal snarled. "Their technology is inferior to ours in every way. How can they possibly?" The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in seconds later, bathing the command center in red light. Alarms screamed as defensive systems activated throughout the fortress. On the main display, impossible images appeared. Human soldiers were inside the installation, moving through corridors that should have been impregnable. "They're in the ventilation systems," General Morthek reported in disbelief. "They're using our own infrastructure against us." How did they get past the orbital defenses? They didn't. They were already here. The truth was more terrifying than any frontal assault. The humans had infiltrated Kethvar weeks ago, arriving in small groups disguised as maintenance crews, diplomatic couriers, even prisoners. They had spent those weeks learning the fortress's weaknesses, mapping its defenses, and preparing for this moment. Colonel Knox's voice crackled through the fortress's own communication system. "Emperor Zethkal, this is Colonel James Knox of the Earth Defense Force. We have a proposition." "You dare speak to me directly?" Zethkal's voice shook with rage. "We've seized control of your primary reactor, your communication array, and your orbital defense grid. We could detonate this entire installation, and everyone in it. But that's not why we're here. What do you want?" "To make a point. Your empire expanded because you faced civilizations that fought like you, organized, predictable, honorable. We're none of those things." Throughout the fortress, human soldiers demonstrated their point. They moved like ghosts through corridors built from massive Zephyrian frames, using their smaller size and enhanced agility to reach positions that should have been impossible. They turned the fortress's own defenses against its defenders, reprogramming security systems to target Zephyrian life signs. In the central armory, Staff Sergeant Chin worked with a team of combat engineers to modify Zephyrian weapons. They stripped away the sophisticated targeting systems and safety protocols, creating crude but effective explosives. "Their weapons are too smart," Chin explained to his team. "They're designed to minimize collateral damage, to fight clean wars. We're going to make them dirty." The modified weapons were distributed throughout the fortress, turning advanced energy rifles into improvised bombs. When Zephyrian soldiers tried to use their own weapons against the intruders, the devices exploded in their hands. "They're using our technology against us," General Morthek reported. "They're turning our advantages into weaknesses." "Then we'll fight them with primitive weapons," Zethkal declared. "Bring out the ceremonial blades. We'll show these humans what Zephyrian warriors can do in close combat." The Emperor's guards drew their energy swords, weapons that could cut through any known material. They moved in perfect formation toward the human positions, confident that their superior strength and reach would prevail. They were wrong. The humans had studied Zephyrian combat techniques during their weeks of infiltration. They understood the Empire's reliance on formal combat protocols, their preference for honorable duels and structured engagements. When the guards reached the central reactor chamber, they found the humans waiting. What followed was not a battle, but a massacre. The humans fought with ferocity that transcended mere violence. They used every available weapon, pipes, electrical cables, even their own bodies, to kill their enemies. They showed no mercy, no hesitation, no fear. "They're not just fighting to win," one wounded guard reported. "They're fighting to terrify us." And it was working. Throughout the fortress, Zephyrian soldiers began abandoning their posts. The human psychological warfare was as effective as their physical assault. They had turned the fortress into a haunted house, where death could come from any shadow. "Sir," General Morthek said urgently, "we're receiving communications from our other installations. The humans are broadcasting footage of this attack across the entire Empire." "What?" Zethkal demanded. On the main display, images appeared from throughout the galaxy. Human soldiers were storming Zephyrian positions, their faces painted with camouflage and blood. They moved with predatory grace, killing with casual efficiency. The footage was being transmitted to every world in the Empire. They're not just attacking us, Morthek realized. They're making an example of us. Colonel Knox, Zethkal spoke into the communication system. What are your terms? Simple. You stop your expansion. You release every slave you've taken. You return to your original borders and stay there. And if we refuse, then we come for your homeworld. And we won't be as gentle as we've been today. The Emperor looked around his command center, seeing the fear in his officers' eyes. The humans had done more than defeat his forces. They had shattered the myth of Zephyrian invincibility. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Are we? Knox replied. Check your long-range sensors. We have 3,000 human soldiers in transit to your core systems. Each one is carrying enough firepower to level a city. Each one has trained their entire life to kill efficiently. The sensors confirmed Knox's claim. Human ships were approaching Zephyrian territory from multiple directions, their movements coordinated with military precision. But more importantly, the ships were broadcasting a message that reached every corner of the galaxy. This is General Sarah Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. Her voice carried across the stars. For too long, the galaxy has lived in fear of the Zephyrian Empire. That ends today. Humanity stands with the Galactic Council, and we will not tolerate the enslavement of innocent worlds. The message included footage of human soldiers in training, their faces hard with determination. It showed Earth's military infrastructure, the weapons factories and training camps that had been hidden from galactic view. Most importantly, it showed the planet itself, a world that had spent millennia preparing for war. 7 billion soldiers, Martinez continued. That's what stands between the Zephyrian Empire and the rest of the galaxy. We spent our entire history learning to fight. Now we'll teach the universe what that means. The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The humans hadn't just revealed their military capabilities. They had declared themselves the guardians of galactic peace. Sir, General Morthek said quietly, our intelligence reports indicate that the humans are not exaggerating. Their entire civilization is militarized. Every adult has received combat training. Their industrial capacity is devoted to weapons production. Emperor Zethkal stared at the tactical display, watching his human forces move through his empire like a virus through a body. They struck without warning, disappeared without trace, and left terror in their wake. What do you recommend? He asked. Surrender, Morthek replied, before they decide to demonstrate their full capabilities. The Emperor's crystalline armor dimmed as he considered his options. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. But the humans had shown that there were other ways to fight, other ways to win. Open a channel to the Galactic Council, he ordered. We need to negotiate. The Galactic Council's Grand Assembly had never hosted a gathering quite like this one. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the crystalline amphitheater, their voices creating a symphony of clicks, hums, and harmonics. At the center of the hall, 3 figures sat at a table that would reshape the galaxy's future. Emperor Zethkal's once proud armor was dimmed, his defeat written in every line of his crystalline frame. Commander Thex, 9 represented the council, his tentacles coiled with nervous energy. Between them sat General Sarah Martinez, the first human to address the galactic community. The Zephyrian Empire agrees to full reparations, Zethkal stated, his voice carrying none of its former arrogance. All conquered territories will be returned. All enslaved populations will be freed. Our military will withdraw to pre-expansion borders. And the guarantee of future compliance? Martinez asked, the Empire submits to Council oversight. We will dismantle our offensive capabilities and maintain only defensive forces. The assembly erupted in surprised chatter. The Zephyrian Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for decades, was surrendering unconditionally. But the real shock came from what had forced this capitulation, a single species that had emerged from galactic obscurity to become its most feared military force. The Council accepts these terms, Commander Thex, 9 announced. But the larger question remains, what role will humanity play in the new galactic order? Martinez stood, her presence commanding immediate silence. around the amphitheater. Beings who had never seen a human before studied her with mixture of fascination and fear. She looked ordinary. No natural armor, no enhanced physicality, no obvious signs of superiority. Yet she had accomplished what the combined council fleets could not. "Humanity doesn't seek dominion over the galaxy," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "We seek partnership. The council invited us to help solve a crisis, and we've done that. Now we want to help prevent future crises." "What are you proposing?" asked Ambassador Crinvell, her crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights. "A new branch of the council military. Not peacekeepers or explorers, but something the galaxy has never had. Soldiers whose only job is to fight wars so that others don't have to." The proposal sent shockwaves through the assembly. For millennia, the council had maintained peace through diplomacy and mutual cooperation. The idea of a dedicated military force challenged every principle they had developed. "You're talking about a professional army," observed Counselor Zonri. "Warriors who exist only to make war. Warriors who exist to end wars," Martinez corrected. "The galaxy has changed. The Zephyrians prove that there are civilizations willing to use violence for expansion. They won't be the last." She activated a holographic display showing the current political map of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas of instability. Yellow zones indicated potential conflicts, and green zones showed peaceful territories. Intelligence reports suggest at least 6 other civilizations are considering aggressive expansion now that the Zephyrians have been neutralized. They see weakness in the Council's diplomatic approach. They think they can succeed where the Empire failed. "And you believe human military intervention can prevent these conflicts?" "I believe human military presence can prevent these conflicts," Martinez replied. "The Zephyrians surrendered not because we destroyed their fleet, but because we made them afraid. Fear is a powerful deterrent when used correctly." Emperor Zethkal spoke for the first time since the formal negotiations had ended. "The humans are correct. Our empire expanded because we encountered no credible resistance. Had we known such warriors existed, we would never have begun our conquests." "But at what cost?" asked Ambassador Veltheri of the Crystalline Collective. "You're asking us to legitimize violence as a tool of governance." "Violence is already a tool of governance," Martinez replied bluntly. "The difference is whether you use it reactively or proactively. The Council has always waited for conflicts to develop before responding. We're proposing to prevent those conflicts from starting." The debate continued for hours, with representatives voicing concerns about militarization, human dominance, and the philosophical implications of institutionalized warfare. But underlying every argument was a simple truth. The humans had proven their effectiveness. "What guarantees do we have that this military force won't become another empire?" asked the delegate from Arcturus. "Because we don't want an empire," Martinez replied. "We have a home. We have a life. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to protect it." She paused, looking around the chamber at the hundreds of species represented. "Every world here has something we lack: advanced technology, cultural achievements, scientific discoveries. You've accomplished things that humanity can barely imagine, but you've also lost something we've never given up." "What have we lost?" Commander Thex, 9 asked. "The ability to fight for what matters. You've built a beautiful civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect. But when someone threatens that civilization, you have no answer except to ask nicely for them to stop." The truth of her words hung in the air like a challenge. The Council had spent centuries avoiding conflict, but conflict had come anyway. The Zephyrians had respected neither diplomacy nor peaceful intentions. "The humans offer a solution," Counselor Zonri said finally. "They will serve as our sword and shield, protecting the galaxy from those who exploit our peaceful nature." "And who protects the galaxy from humans?" asked Ambassador Crinvell. Martinez smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both reassuring and terrifying. "The same thing that has always protected Earth from humanity's worst impulses: the knowledge that we have to live with the consequences of our actions." The vote was closer than expected, but the measure passed. The Human Defense Corps will be established as a new branch of the Council military, with Earth serving as its headquarters and training ground. Humanity would have a permanent seat on the council, with veto power over military actions. As the assembly dispersed, Martinez found herself approached by Emperor Zefkal. The former conqueror moved slowly, his defeat evident in every step. "I must ask," he said quietly, "would you really have destroyed our home world?" Martinez considered the question carefully. "Do you really want to know the answer?" "Yes." "We had contingency plans for 17 different scenarios, including the complete elimination of your species. We hoped we wouldn't need them, but we were prepared." The Emperor's armor dimmed further. "Your species terrifies me more than any force I've encountered. You fight with complete conviction, but you also show mercy to your enemies. How do you reconcile those contradictions?" "By remembering that the goal isn't to win wars," Martinez replied. "It's to create a galaxy where wars aren't necessary." 6 months later, the first Human Defense Corps training facility was established on Luna, Earth's moon. Recruits from across the galaxy came to learn human military tactics, but more importantly, to understand the psychology of warfare. The program's commander, Colonel Knox, addressed the first class of mixed-species soldiers. "You're not here to learn how to kill," he told them. "You're here to learn how to make your enemies too afraid to fight." The galaxy had changed. The age of easy conquest was over. Aggressive civilizations now faced the possibility of encountering humans, soldiers who had spent millennia preparing for a war and who fought with ferocity that transcended mere violence. But perhaps most importantly, the galaxy had learned that peace was not the absence of conflict. It was the presence of those willing to fight for it. Humanity had taken on the role of guardian, standing ready to defend a civilization they had only recently joined. The stars no longer looked down on a galaxy divided by fear and aggression. They looked down on a galaxy protected by Earth's children, warriors who had learned to fight not for conquest, but for peace. And in the depths of space, on worlds that had never heard of Earth, potential aggressors looked at their invasion plans and quietly filed them away. The galaxy had soldiers now, real soldiers, and nobody wanted to meet them in battle. #NoOneFearedEarth. Then they met our soldiers.